Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Symbotic. This was a stock analysis request from one of the followers, and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I will most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. And on this chart we are looking at a couple of scenarios. So firstly, I want to mention this structure is well enough full to consider a full pattern in an ABC movement, in which case realistically we don't need any continuation higher, we don't need any additional structure to the upside before heading into a much longer and larger downtrend, even to new all-time low territory. Now with that said, there is still for us the possibility to track a potential structure that would allow even an impulse to form from this area, because sure, this could have been an ABC structure and the most probable part of this uptrend has already been done, but we could also be tracking this as a double 1-2-1-2 setup, in which case we would need to be prepared for still a decently significant correction within a wave 2, but afterwards a continuation higher within a third wave to the upside. And I say the most probable part of this uptrend is done because the interpretation in orange allows for a full structure. We had here our initial 5-wave move to the upside, we had our 3-wave correction to the downside, and we had another 5-wave move to the upside, which suggests a full pattern within a possible ABC movement. And here we are looking if we are indeed to follow in the white interpretation to reach within the third wave to the upside, at least the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, which is, let me see if I drew this correctly actually. But yeah, anyway, it is around the $255 level. Around that area anyway, the 138.2% extension is the ideal target for the entire third wave to the upside. And if we are to actually consider the size of what has formed here only within the wave 1, it is quite probable that if this really is to form an impulse to the upside, we should expect to far exceed those targets. Yeah, if we form here a 1-2 setup, even if we push to the latest level or the lowest level of support at the 78.6% retracement at the $23.5 level, we would expect within the internal third wave to the upside to get here to the $236.5 level, around that area anyway. And if we get within an internal wave 3 to those levels, we should be also prepared for a fifth wave that could easily take us even to around the 200% extension in this case. Yeah, maybe if not that, maybe to the $350 level. But again, those targets are both well beyond the larger wave 3 ideal target. Yeah. And again, those extensions are based on the assumption that the wave 2 extends all the way down to the last level of support. Now, with that said, right now, while we are looking for the larger correction in wave 2, I cannot yet fully assume that we have topped here. Yeah, I have to still track the possible continuation in an extension within this wave 1, because while we have a full structure and even on the RSI we have heavy divergences, yeah, even on the weekly we have a couple of divergences where we formed here 1 and 2 additional higher highs, while on the RSI we have formed lower highs. So yeah, we have significant divergences that do suggest that this structure is coming towards the full count, the full pattern within this movement to the upside. But I have to consider here the possibility that I am tracking in the yellow interpretation, because we could actually have had only an overshoot within this area and we may get something like an ABC movement or even a WXY pattern that could realistically work out. And in that case, I would be watching here for an internal area of support between the $59 level all the way down to the $40 level. Now, this yellow interpretation works both within the wave C in orange and the wave 1 in white. Yeah, both of them could follow rather within the yellow scenario, although I want to make it very clear it is not a necessity for us to push still higher within this structure to the upside. We don't need to form any additional highs before we actually head into either the larger area of support or face a more severe completion within the orange interpretation. Now, with that said, we did push here, however, perfectly into the first level of support in yellow, and we had our quite significant reaction because we have had quite a few attempts to push below it, but we seem to still be trending right at this point where, yeah, sure, right now we may be finally ending this hold of the level of support and we may be pushing even lower. Although, again, this is in a very small time frame, we shouldn't necessarily mind too much every single swing that is going to happen within this area. But if we want to be tracking this internal structure, we do have a couple of options. Now, since in this initial movement to the downside I am able to actually track even an impulse, I do consider the possibility of a larger ABC movement that could occur, and I will be tracking here for that the area of resistance for such a pattern, and we will be tracking this in white. That would be at the levels between the $67.2 all the way up to the $80 level. Now, clearly, we haven't even pushed into those areas of resistance, and that could be as part of a different scenario that could realistically allow a series of 1-2 setups to have occurred in this area instead, where now we would be expecting to follow within a third wave to the downside. Yeah, many interpretations could work out, especially since this is a small time frame. It could distort the actual structure, could morph into one of those different interpretations, so we won't be keeping too close of an eye within this movement. We will instead be zooming out and watching here for resistance, the $80 level, which if broken, it would be a signal that this structure is likely to still extend higher. Again, many options to actually extend within, because this could also be something like a 1-2 setup that could still work out and extend higher, but right now it doesn't really make any sense, let's say, to track every single scenario and every single possibility to continue higher. We did push into one of the scenarios area of support. We do have some levels that allow us to track continuation higher, and we don't need to get lost in the details. Right now, the preferred interpretation where we are actually looking for a potential trade setup is still the white scenario. The yellow interpretation is here to help us track a potential continuation higher, where again, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for a position within this area, but maybe if we form a wave 1 and then have our wave 2 correction, that would actually be more interesting. Now, it is your choice. If you look here at the 38.2% retracement, for example, and think, well, this could be very close and might get anyway to the 38.2% retracement of the white scenario, which is why it is in a level of confluence to some degree at least. Yeah, the area of support in yellow does overlap somewhat with the area of support in white, so that could be interesting because we have a couple of scenarios that could allow a larger push to the upside. But again, that is your choice. But if we want to look at more reliable structure, again, the white scenario still wins. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.